Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're learning Ketubot page 97, which continues to discuss the situation of how a woman who is a widow, who is entitled to being fed, receiving mazonos, until she receives her Ketubot or gets remarried, that if there is no food around, so she could take land and it could be sold. And with that money, she's able to eat this food, this mazonos. Now, the question is, when the property is sold, which is actually her husband's estate, can she do so even outside of the courts, or does it need to be done in the actual court? So when it comes to a woman who has been fully married and then her husband dies, so such a woman is entitled to receive mazonos, this food. And we can understand why we would want to expedite the process of this sale, because she's obviously hungry, in need of food. And therefore, if we would wait for the courts to evaluate the property and to be involved in the entire process of selling the land, that could be time consuming. And therefore, when it comes to a woman who is fully married and then her husband dies, so she can sell this property for her food even without the courts. Now the question is, how about when it comes to a woman who is only engaged or had erison? Now the law is that such a woman is not entitled to mazonos, to food. It's only in a situation when she's been fully married. But she is entitled to something else. She's entitled to her Ketubot. So because of this, it's questionable whether or not she's able to sell this outside of the courts. And here the Talmud says that we'll even allow this woman who is engaged, whose husband died, to be able to sell it outside the courts. And it's for two reasons. First of all, because of graciousness, which means, as we said before, we have a very strong concern that if we make it difficult for women to be able to collect their Ketubot, that we have to have them jump through all the hoops and go through all the red tape, that may deter women from wanting to get married, because they're going to realize they may not actually be able to receive the money for their Ketubot. And therefore, will be lenient even when it comes to this woman who's only been engaged. Also, a man would not want to cause his wife to have to go through the embarrassment of having to stand in front of a court and to be able to go through that entire process. And because of his care for his wife, for that reason, we say that she can also sell outside of the courts. Now, there's one glaring point that needs to be addressed. This woman, her husband died, but it does not make any difference, because a man who had a healthy relationship, who was married to this woman, and even though he is no longer alive, would still not want his wife to be embarrassed or have to go through all the difficulties. When it comes to a person who has a strong bond with another person, that bond does not break even at the time of death. Obviously, that person, the husband's not alive anymore, but he still would want the absolute best for his wife even after he has passed away. And therefore, for that reason, we find that she does not have to do the sale in the courts, but even outside of that, which teaches us such a profound lesson when it comes to our relationships with one another. This is talking about how sensitive a man would be to his wife's feelings even after he has died. How much more so when we are in a relationship, how careful we have to be sensitive and to not humiliate or embarrass your spouse, but rather to be able to create a situation where they feel a strong love and bond with you.